The Middle East was burning. It was day 8 of the war, and Iran was about to do something that nobody in Washington had wanted. Something that nobody in Jerusalem had prepared for. Something that sent a message louder than any missile. Iran was about to choose a new leader, and the choice they made would change everything. But first, the night before. Because the morning of day 8 began with something that residents of Tehran would never forget. Israeli strikes had hit oil storage facilities near Tehran overnight. The fuel depots caught fire, and burning oil began pouring out into the surrounding streets. Witnesses described a river of fire flowing through the roads. The city became wrapped in a massive cloud of thick black smoke so toxic that it turned the rain black. Black rain, falling on Tehran. Iranian authorities told residents to stay indoors, wear masks if they had to go outside, and conserve food and fuel. Stay indoors, wear a mask, conserve food. A city of millions, one of the oldest and most historic cities in the world, being told to hide inside and ration what little they had left. And then the announcement came. Iran named Mojtaba Khamenei as its new supreme leader. He was 56 years old. And he was the son of the man killed on the first day of this war. Think about that for a moment. The Americans and Israelis had killed the supreme leader, in part hoping that removing him might weaken Iran's will to fight, might create confusion, might open a door for something different. And instead, Iran had reached into the same family and pulled out the dead man's own son. Father killed, son steps up. The regime was not broken. The regime was not confused. The regime was telling the world, in the clearest possible way, that it was still standing. Mojtaba's selection was a victory for Iran's hardline factions. He had deep connections to the Revolutionary Guard, the most powerful military force in Iran. He had personally helped crush protests in the past. He was not a man interested in compromise. One analyst described the situation simply. Mojtaba, he said, had inherited an impossible job. He was inheriting a government at war with the greatest superpower in the world, the greatest military power in the Middle East, and at war with his own people. The Revolutionary Guard had pushed hard behind the scenes for his election. Ballots were hand-carried by couriers to be counted because it was too dangerous to gather in one place. Even electing a new leader had to be done in secret, in hiding, under the bombs. And Trump's reaction? He had already said publicly, days earlier, that Mojtaba was an unacceptable candidate. That America should have a role in choosing Iran's next leader. Iran had answered that suggestion the only way Iran knows how, by doing exactly what it wanted. In Tehran's streets, some Iranians, those who had spent months protesting against the regime, quietly chanted, "Death to Mojtaba," from behind their windows. Not in the streets, not openly, behind closed windows and curtains, in whispers, in the dark. Because even in a city under bombs, speaking too loudly against the new supreme leader could still get you killed. And Mojtaba's very first statement as supreme leader, he vowed to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed, and warned every country in the region to stop hosting American military bases. No compromise, no softening, no peace offering. His first words to the world were a declaration of war continuing. Meanwhile, Israel had a message of its own. Israel's military threatened to target Mojtaba Khamenei directly, and those who had been involved in selecting him. The new supreme leader had been in office for hours, and Israel had already put a target on him. The IDF announced it had struck over 400 targets in Iran in the past 24 hours alone. By this point, it claimed to have destroyed around 75% of Iran's missile launchers. 3/4 of Iran's missile launchers gone in 8 days. And yet, Iran was still firing missiles. Within hours of naming their new supreme leader, the Revolutionary Guard announced fresh missile launches. Fresh launches, minutes after naming a new leader. As if to say, nothing has changed. We are still here. We are still fighting. But there was something new on day 8. Something unexpected coming from Eastern Europe. Ukraine announced that its military experts would travel to the Gulf states to teach them how to shoot down Iranian drones. A country fighting its own war against Russia for years was sending its people to share what they had learned the hard way about surviving Iranian aerial attacks. Two very different worlds, now bound together by the same Iranian weapon humming through their skies. Back in Iran, the situation for ordinary people was worsening by the hour. Iran banned all food exports. The government ordered people to uninstall all foreign social media apps over security concerns. State media announced that Iran had stocked 1 month's worth of wheat flour and essential food products, checkpoints, in your own city. On streets you had walked your whole life. Soldiers at every corner. The government tightening its grip on a population it was now afraid might slip away. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees announced that 3 million people inside Iran had been internally displaced, forced from their homes by the strikes, the fires, the toxic air, the fear. 3 million people, wandering inside their own country, looking for somewhere safe, in a country where nowhere felt safe anymore. And in America, ordinary citizens were starting to feel it too. In just 1 week of war, gasoline prices had spiked nearly 50 cents per gallon. A war being fought in the skies over Tehran was costing American families money at the pump. That is how connected our world is. That is how far the shockwaves of a single conflict can travel. Day 8 ended with black rain falling on Tehran. A new supreme leader, more hardline than his father, sitting in hiding somewhere, with a target already on his back. 3 million Iranians displaced, children dead in Lebanon, gas prices rising in America, and a war that, after 8 full days, showed absolutely no sign of slowing down. The analysts' words from that morning kept echoing. Mojtaba Khamenei had inherited a government at war with the greatest superpower in the world, and his first act as leader was to promise that the war would continue. 8 days in, and the door to peace, if it had ever been open, seemed to be closing. Day 9 was coming.